The ironmaster assumed that he felt embarrassed because of his miserable clothing. Please don't think that I have such a fine home that you cannot show yourself there, he said. Elizabeth is dead, as you may already have heard. My boys are abroad, and there is no one at home except my oldest daughter and myself. We were just saying that it was too bad we didn't have any company for Christmas. Now, come along with me and help us make the Christmas food disappear a little faster. But the stranger said no, and again no, and the ironmaster saw that he must give in. It looks as though Captain Wonstale preferred to stay with you tonight, Sir John, he said to the master blacksmith, and turned on his heel. But he laughed to himself as he went away, and the blacksmith, who knew him, understood very well that he had not said his last word. It was not more than half an hour before they heard the sound of carriage wheels outside the forge, and a new guest came in. But this time it was not the ironmaster. He had sent his daughter, apparently hoping that she would have better powers of persuasion than he himself. She entered, followed by a valet, carrying on her arm a big fur coat. She was not at all pretty, but seemed modest and quite shy. In the forge, everything was just as it had been earlier in the evening. The master blacksmith and his apprentice still sat on their bench, and iron and charcoal still glowed in the furnace. Now what happens is that our ironmaster was asking him to come to his manor, to the estate house. But the peddler was afraid to go because he was having with him that 30 kroner notes that he had stolen. And he was thinking that to go along with the ironmaster will be like going to the lion's den. He may be caught. Afraid of that, he was rejecting from his invitation. Now what happened is that the ironmaster was trying to persuade him further. He said his wife Elizabeth died and his 2 sons are abroad. Only he and his daughter is there in the manor house. And he was saying that this Christmas they were really feeling bad that they were not having any guest. And they would be happy to have him as their guest. But the stranger said no, no and no again. And at last the ironmaster gave up, saying that Captain Wonstale will prefer to stay with the blacksmith that night. But later, what happened as he went after some time, his daughter is coming, and she was having a black fur coat in her hand. She was not pretty, but she was so modest in her ways. Stretched himself out on the floor and lay with a piece of big iron under his head, and his hat pulled down over his eyes. As soon as the young girl got sight of him, she went up and lifted his hat. The man was evidently used to sleeping with one eye open. He jumped up abruptly and seemed to be quite frightened. "My name is Edla Wilmanson," said the young girl. "My father came home and said that you wanted to sleep here in the forge tonight, and then I asked permission to come and bring you home to us. I am so sorry, Captain, that you are having such a hard time." She looked at him compassionately with her heavy eyes, and then she noticed that the man was afraid. Either he has stolen something or else he has escaped from jail, she thought, and added quickly, "You may be sure, Captain, that you will be allowed to leave us just as freely as you came. Only please stay with us over Christmas Eve." She said this in such a friendly manner that the Rattrap peddler must have felt confidence in her. "It would never have occurred to me that you would bother with me yourself, miss," he said. "I will come at once." He accepted the fur coat, which the valet handed him with a deep bow, threw it over his rags, and followed the young lady out to the carriage, without granting the astonished blacksmith so much as a glance. But while he was riding up to the manor house, he had evil forebodings. "Why the devil did I take that fellow's money?" he thought. "Now I am sitting in the trap and will never get out of it." Now what happened is that the daughter of the ironmaster was named Edla Wilmanson. She is approaching the peddler who was sleeping, and she is waking him up, but he was quite afraid to see her, and she understood that this fellow had stolen something or else he has escaped from jail. Now she is just asking him to come to her home for the Christmas Eve, and she is promising him that he can live freely as he comes. Now the peddler was moved with that friendly manner in which the girl talked to him, so he consented very easily to accompany her. And he is wearing up the black fur coat that she gave him, and he is accompanying her to the manor's house. On the way, he regretted about stealing that 30 kroner notes, which was the root cause of all these problems. The next day was Christmas Eve, and when the ironmaster came into the dining room for breakfast, he probably thought with satisfaction of his old regimental comrade, whom he had run across so unexpectedly. First of all, we must see to it that he gets a little flesh on his bones, he said to his daughter, who was busy at the table, and then we must see that he gets something else to do than to run around the country selling rat traps. It is cure that things have gone downhill with him. As badly as that, said the daughter. Last night I did not think there was anything about him to show that he had once been an educated man. You must have patience, my little girl, said the father. As soon as he gets clean and dressed up, you will see something different. Last night he was naturally impressed. The tramp manners will fall away from him with the tramp clothes. Just as he said this, the door opened and the stranger entered. Yes, now he was truly clean and well dressed. The valet had bathed him, cut his hair and shaved him. Moreover, he was dressed in a good-looking suit of clothes which belonged to the ironmaster. He wore a white shirt and a starched collar and horseshoes. But although his guest was now so well groomed, the ironmaster did not seem pleased. He looked at him with puckered brow, and it was easy to understand that when he had seen the strange fellow in the uncertain reflection from the furnace, he might have made a mistake, but that now when he stood there in broad daylight, it was impossible to mistake him for an old acquaintance. So now what happened is that the ironmaster was telling her on the next day was Christmas Eve, and the ironmaster came to the dining room to give instruction to Edla that to make sure that the peddler was eating some flesh. Okay, he's eating well, and Edla remarks that she is not able to find anything about him to show that he once was an educated man. And the ironmaster told her that you should wait for him to get cleaned and dressed up, and you should have some patience. At that moment, the stranger came. He was wearing clean clothes. He was shaved. He was bathed by the valet, and now he was looking quite a gentleman. But what happened at this point, the ironmaster realized that it was not the acquaintance that he was thinking about him. What does this mean? He thundered. The stranger made no attempt to dissimulate. He saw at once that the splendour had come to an end. It's not my fault, sir, he said. I never pretended to be anything but a poor trader, and I pleaded and begged to be allowed to stay in the forge. But no harm has been done. At worst, I can put on my rags again and go away. Well, said the ironmaster, hesitating a little. It was not quite honest either. You must admit that, and I should not be surprised if the sheriff would like to have something to say in the matter. The tramp took a step forward and struck the table with his fist. Now I am going to tell you, Mr. Ironmaster, how things are, he said. This whole world is nothing but a big rat trap. All the good things that are offered to you are nothing but cheese and bits of pork, set out to drag a poor fellow. Now the peddler realized that the ironmaster had corrected his false mistake and all, and the ironmaster thundered at him, what is this? Now the peddler said that I told you I am not coming, and you only forced me, and I am going. I haven't done any harm to you. Now the ironmaster threatens him that let the sheriff come. Sheriff is the chief officer of justice. Okay, so he is telling him that let the sheriff come and we will settle the matters. Now at this point, the peddler becomes so distressed. He is hitting the table, and he tells him that the whole world is a rat trap and the good things offered to you are just bait. into trouble. And if the sheriff comes now and locks me up for this, then you, Mr. Ironmaster, must remember that a day may come when you yourself may want to get a big piece of pork, and then you will get caught in the trap. The Ironmaster began to laugh. That was not so badly said, my good fellow. Perhaps we should let the sheriff alone on Christmas Eve. But now get out of here as fast as you can. But just as the man was opening the door, the daughter said, I think he ought to stay with us today. I don't want him to go, and with that she went and closed the door. What in the world are you doing? Said the father. The daughter stood there quite embarrassed and hardly knew what to answer. That morning she had felt so happy when she thought how homelike and Christmassy she was going to make things for the poor hungry wretch. She could not get away from the idea all at once, and that was why she had interceded for the vagabond. I am thinking of this stranger here, said the young girl. He walks and walks the whole year long, and there is probably not a single place in the whole country where he is welcome and can feel at home. Wherever he turns, he is chased away. Always he is afraid of being arrested and cross-examined. I should like to have him enjoy a day of peace with us here, just one in the whole year. The Ironmaster mumbled something in his beard. He could not bring himself to oppose her. It was all a mistake, of course, she continued. But anyway, I don't think we ought to chase away a human being whom we have asked to come here and to whom we have promised Christmas cheer. You do preach worse than a parson, said the Ironmaster. I only hope you won't have to regret this. The young girl took the stranger by the hand and led him up to the table. Now sit down and eat, she said, for she could see that her father had given in. The man with the rat trap said not a word. He only sat down and helped himself to the food. Now at this point, he said that if you are denying me the bread today, then one day you will be also denied of the pork. The Ironmaster began to laugh, and he said, there is no need of calling the sheriff on the Christmas Eve, and he asked the peddler to leave. Just as the peddler was about to leave, he opened the door. Etla is interfering, and she is asking him to stay with them that Christmas Eve, because she said that it feels good to her to give a Christmas tree to a person. According to her, this peddler was not welcomed by anyone. He was always chased away, and he stayed afraid of being arrested and cross-examined. So she wanted him to enjoy a day of peace with them, to have a good Christmas cheer. He was the person that they welcomed to share the Christmas treat. So she laid all these justifications, and Ironmaster had to agree to her. And he also warned her that do not regret on this decision. So the rat trap peddler had nothing to say. He just sat down and had the food. He looked at the young girl who had interceded for him. Why had she done it? What could the crazy idea be? After that, Christmas Eve at Ramsjo passed just as it always had. The stranger did not cause any trouble because he did nothing but sleep. The whole forenoon he lay on the sofa in one of the guest rooms and slept at one stretch. At noon they woke him up so that he could have his share of the good Christmas lair. But after that he slept again. It seemed as though for many years he had not been able to sleep as quietly and safely as here at Ramsjo. In the evening, when the Christmas tree was lighted, they woke him again, and he stood for a while in the drawing room, blinking as though the candlelight hurt him. But after that he disappeared again. 2 hours later, he was aroused once more. He then had to go down into the dining room and eat the Christmas fish and porridge. As soon as they got up from the table, he went around to each one present and said thank you and good night. But when he came to the young girl, she gave him to understand that it was her father's intention that the suit which he wore was to be a Christmas present. He did not have to return it, and if he wanted to spend next Christmas Eve in a place where he could rest in peace and be sure that no evil would befall him, he would be welcomed back again. The man with the rat traps did not answer anything to this. He only stared at the young girl in boundless amazement. The next morning, the Ironmaster and his daughter got up in good season to go to the early Christmas service. Their guest was still asleep, and they did not disturb him. When at about 10 o'clock they drove back from the church, the young girl sat and hung her head even more dejectedly than usual. At church she had learned that one of the old crofters of the ironworks had been robbed by a man who went around selling rat traps. Now at this point the rat trapper was very much surprised why Etla pleaded for him, and he was quite surprised. But he is not asking her anything. He was having the food along with them, and he did no harm to them. After having the breakfast, he is sleeping. After having the lunch, he is sleeping. After lighting the Christmas tree, he is sleeping. And at the time of giving the present and all those things, Edla is telling him that the suit which he was wearing was supposed to be the present from the Ironmaster. And she also tells him that if he wants to spend another Christmas Eve there, he is almost welcome, so that he can enjoy Christmas at peace. And the next morning, when the rat trapper was sleeping, both Ironmaster and daughter is going to the church for the early Christmas service. But when they came back from the church, Edla was very much depressed, because from the church she came to know that a man who was selling rat traps had stolen 30 kroner notes from an old man. So Etla understood that it was this man to whom she had given the shelter and the Christmas tree, the one who had stolen that 30 kroner notes, and Etla was feeling so bad about it. "Yes, that was a fine fellow you let into the house," said her father. "I only wonder how many silver spoons are left in the cupboard by this time." The wagon had hardly stopped at the front steps when the Ironmaster asked the valet whether the stranger was still there. He added that he had heard at church that the man was a thief. The valet answered that the fellow had gone and that he had not taken anything with him at all. On the contrary, he had left behind a little package which Miss Wilson was to be kind enough to accept as a Christmas present. The young girl opened the package, which was so badly done up that the contents came into view at once. She gave a little cry of joy. She found a small rat trap, and in it lay 3 wrinkled 10 kroner notes. But that was not all. In the rat trap lay also a letter written in large, jagged characters. "Honored and noble miss, since you have been so nice to me all day long, as if I was a captain, I want to be nice to you in return, as if I was the real captain. For I do not want you to be embarrassed at this Christmas season by a thief. But you can give back the money to the old man on the roadside who has the money pouch hanging on the window frame as a bait for poor wanderers. The rat trap is a Christmas present from a rat who would have been caught in this world's rat trap if he had not been raised to a captain, because in that way he got power to clear himself. Return with friendship and high regard, Captain Bonestale." So as the Ironmaster reached the home, he is enquiring the valet whether the man had left. On the way, he was asking the daughter that it was a nice person that you let in. Let's see how many silver spoons are there. So the valet told that the man had already went and he has taken nothing with him, and he has left a letter and a Christmas present for Etla. And Etla, when she opened up the package, she found 30 kroner notes that he had stolen from that old man and a small rat trap. And the letter said that as Etla had treated him as a captain, he would like to live with dignity as a captain, so he is returning that 30 kroner notes, and he is entrusting Etla to give it back to the old man. And the small rat trap is a symbol of his gratitude for saving himself, a rat, from the trap of this world. And it was signed as Captain Bonestale. So it's a very good chapter, and it ends with a positive note. The transformation of a bad person, the transformation of a peddler into a very high dignified, high profilic one. Thank you.